Hello everyone, it's Laura here from See Clear Counselling, and here we are again on a Tuesday afternoon at 4:30, and I always come on and do a live on a Tuesday at 4:30. And yes, so welcome to this week's live. Now, Facebook seems to be playing up and I seem to have people coming on board, but I can't see who you are. So if you give me a little thumbs up or say hello or a wave, maybe I might be able to see you. But at the moment, it seems that it's not letting me know who's there. So I do apologise if I don't say hello. So today we're going to be talking about work-related stress. And I'm particularly talking about that today. Last week we talked about the children returning to school and the stress that they might be feeling about returning to school. But of course, many of you, your work environment has been changing over the last few months, and it may be that you're now starting to go back into the office or go back to work in a slightly more normal way than it was before, rather than working from home. Excuse me, I've got a tickle. So I thought we would focus on yourselves this week and the stress related to returning to work after all of everything that's been going on with coronavirus. So as always, I will upload the replay of this onto my Facebook page, See Clear Counselling. And if you're not watching the live, but you're watching the replay, please let me know, put replay in the comments. It's good for me to know that people are watching the replay, but what also happens then is that it will push the video out to more people, which is always useful. So write replay if you're watching the replay. And I will also be writing a blog about this, and that will be going onto my website, www.seeclearcounselling.co.uk. And for those of you who perhaps struggle with anxiety, then you can join my support group on Facebook, which is Beating Anxiety Through COVID-19 and Beyond. So just go into the search bar on Facebook and search Beating Anxiety, answer the 3 questions, and I can welcome you into the group. And got some good feedback from people that are in the group saying that it's really helped them with their anxiety and found ways to manage their anxiety through the posts and the lives and things that I do in that group. So if that's something that's worrying you, then pop along and join us there. So as I say, today we're talking about work-related stress, and I'm going to talk about 5 ways to help you relieve that stress from work. So we're going to be looking at communication, we're going to be looking at your helpful or unhelpful thoughts, we're going to be looking at being able to relax at work, we're looking at whether you're producing your own stress or whether it's the stress from others, and obviously always about talking to someone, because that's always advice that I give when we're feeling stressed or anxious. So as I say, it's been a bit of a strange year, hasn't it? And already our working lives have changed enormously. I mean, when lockdown came, a lot of people were starting to work from home. People were furloughed and not able to work. So there's been quite a lot of changes going on with the work. And a recent survey from Glassdoor suggested that actually in the UK, workers are experiencing anxiety, sleeplessness and depression because of all of these changes that are happening to their work environment and how they're working. And it's actually been suggested that women are experiencing greater levels of work-related stress than men. So, you know, take that into consideration when you're thinking about your own stress levels. And I think for a lot of people, what they identified through the research was that actually the worry of job security was identified as the main reason for higher levels of anxiety. And, you know, I know from talking to a lot of my friends and colleagues that actually there is this worry, although we've been on furlough, a lot of people have been on furlough, that that doesn't guarantee you a job afterwards. And so, you know, you've been sitting at home and you're not working, and then they're saying that furlough is over, but actually, will you have a job? And that's a big worry for people. And for myself, at the beginning of lockdown, I had quite a lot of worry because I had to transition from face-to-face working to going on to video, and that didn't suit people because they were working from home, their families were at home. So, you know, coronavirus has had a big impact on our working lives, and now we're kind of moving into another transition of how that's going to work if we are going to go back into the workplace. And I think, you know, there are other worries alongside whether or not your job is safe. There are things like concern about the risk of being exposed to the virus at work, because, you know, we've been safe in our homes and now we're going back and being exposed to more people. So, you know, there's this fear about it being more exposed to the virus. And that kind of feeds into, you know, our safety for our family and taking care of our family needs and what that will mean for our family. A lot of people are having to manage different workloads now. Through this transition period, you know, we've already heard about big companies laying off a lot of people, and so teams have become smaller, and so your workload may have changed through this period. For a lot of you, if you're working from home, or even if you're, you know, venturing back into the office, things might be quite different, and there might be tools and equipment that you need to perform your job that actually isn't available to you, so that makes your job more difficult. There may be this feeling that perhaps, you know, you haven't been contributing to work where others have been at work, or, you know, the guilt about you not being out on the front line and others are. And, you know, I've heard a lot about, you know, some people are going back to work and some aren't, and how that makes people feel about that situation. As I say, there's a lot of uncertainty about the future of employment, a lot of places closing down. Will you have a job or won't you? And that's really worrying. We're having to learn a lot of new communication tools, dealing with technical things that perhaps we didn't before, and, you know, using Zoom and other areas of being able to communicate with people whilst we're not in the office. And as I say, some might be in the office and some might not. So we're having to adapt to different workspaces and different work schedules. So there's a lot of things that we've got to think about when we're going back to work. So we're not just going back to work. It's going to be quite different for a lot of us for a little while now, and I think that we need to take those into consideration. So I'm wondering how it's been for you, you know. Have you been able to go back to work? Are you furloughed? Are you going back to work? Let me know what's happening for you and how you're finding this transition and what it's been like for you. And actually, you know, how it's affected your stress levels up till now, and how you think you know that might be affected for you moving forward. So, you know, we're going to look at some ways to think about how we can reduce this impact of this stress. And I think that, you know, first of all, you need to be very aware that you could be in a more stressful situation. For some, it might be less stressful, but for others, they could be in this more stressful situation, and recognising what stress means for you and actually being able to identify when you are feeling more stress. And quite often, that can be something physical that we feel. It can be with the headaches and the tension that we're feeling in our body, or the sick feeling in our stomach, or the butterflies. So, you know, we may feel a lot of physical symptoms that will be our early warning system that we are starting to feel stressed at work. And actually we need to contain that stress quite early, because if stress continues on a long-term basis, then that can lead to anxiety and being in that anxious space on a permanent basis. And it can lead to things like panic attacks. And although stress in itself isn't an illness, stress can lead to physical and mental illness. So actually doing something about the stress levels that you have early on is really important. So start to try and identify when you're feeling that stress. So the first tip that I'm going to look at is actually the communication that you have with others in your workplace, because actually we're social creatures, and it can be easy for us to forget that kind of feeling of security and calmness about our job that comes from being around others who do the same job as us. Of course, it can work the other way, that actually being amongst others can increase our stress levels. Some of us may have really liked working on our own, and going back to work being amongst people may increase our stress level. But generally, we are social creatures and we like to have people around us, and especially people that have a common interest or a common goal with us. So consider ways that you can keep your work relationships in a healthy way, and that you're still communicating with those people that you work with. So maybe if some of you are working from the office and some of you are working from home, it may be quite nice to put together some online coffee breaks so that actually you are all communicating during a coffee break. Because if you're sat at home and you're not able to communicate with those people at work and feeling like you're missing out on some of the stuff that's going on, actually be included. So maybe think about some of those online coffee breaks. And maybe some social interaction as well, so that you're still keeping that social interaction with those people that you work with. And just because you're not in the office doesn't mean that a few of you couldn't go out for an after work drink to catch up on things. So don't let that relationship that you have with your work colleagues or that communication break down because of these different ways of working. And in that same vein, keeping that dialogue going with the people that you work with can help with your work levels, because we can't do everything ourselves, and so we need to talk to the available employers that are around, keep people updated with what's going on, and communicate if you're finding it more difficult to work in the way that has been introduced to you, and reach out to people for that help. And also keep the communication going with your manager. It's really important that your manager knows what's going on for you, because your manager needs to know what's happening to you as an individual and as a team. So it's a good idea to talk to your manager about your situation, how you're doing, and if you're having particular problems, talk through with them how you can work around those to help you still manage the workload that is happening for you in the environment that you happen to be with. It may be that you change your work hours, look at how often you go into the office, how often you stay at home, and have those discussions with your managers so that you both know that you're coming from the same place, and that actually your manager isn't asking you to do things that will increase your stress level. Let them know early on that's what's happening. Because actually employers have this duty of care, and this means that they must do all they can to reasonably support their employers' health, safety and well-being. So if you have any concerns about your health, safety or well-being, you need to talk to your manager about it. So keep those channels of communication open, whether you're working directly with them or not. The second way is to think about what thoughts you're having and how you are reacting to your thoughts. Because actually when we get stressed and when we worry about things, it can actually lead us to develop what we call a negative mental filter. And so quite often what happens when we're getting stressed, we look at things in a negative way, and then it's really difficult for us to look at them in any other way. And so we automatically interpret situations through that negative lens. So you might jump to a negative conclusion when you don't really have any evidence. Something along the lines of, I didn't do that properly, my boss is going to think I'm incompetent. Or I don't have the usual support that I have, so I can't possibly do this job. So reconsider those negative thoughts that are going on. Treat them as hypothetical thoughts, and instead kind of look at the facts and consider what the other possibilities are, rather than those negative thoughts. And think about acting rather than reacting. So, generally we'll experience feelings of stress when we feel that situations are out of control for us. And not being in control will activate those stress hormones. And actually over a long term, that stress hormone can can adapt how you look at things and how you feel about things. And as I say, you can go into that negative filter. And in the long term, that can actually reduce your confidence, your concentration, and your overall well-being. So identify any aspects of the situation that you can't control and look at the aspects of a situation that you can control. Because generally, if you're in control of your actions and your responses, we're in control of that. But actually, we can't control others people's reactions and their responses. So think about what you have control of and, act on that rather than reacting to what other people do, because actually you have no control over that and you're unable to change what happens in that circumstance. So think about what you have control of, that you can act on that, and try and minimise how much you react to what other people do that you actually don't have any control over. That's not your responsibility. And those responsibilities may well have changed over this period, so you need to rethink how you're looking at your other employers and employees and colleagues and what their kind of situation is from their workplace now as well. Introduce some relaxation and mindfulness into your workplace. And this is really important, because if you can feel your stress levels rising, as I said, we need to capture those as early as possible. So you need to introduce into your workday some ways of relaxing and being mindful about what's going on. Now, mindfulness isn't about meditation and all that sort of thing, but mindfulness is actually the ability to pay attention to the present moment and kind of look at it with some curiosity, some openness, and actually accept what is going on for you. So our stress levels will rise when we actually spend too much time thinking about the past and we worry too much about the future. And certainly with work at the moment, if things are changing and there's lots of change going on with your work situation, you could spend a lot of your time in your head in a place where you're saying, well, things didn't used to happen like that. We didn't used to do it like that. The systems were different. We didn't do these kind of things. And if you're focusing on all the things that you didn't used to do, or that you did used to do, actually you're not focusing on what's going on right now. You can't change that. We've had this change. We've had to make adaptations to how things are. So don't worry about what you used to do. Just focus on how it is now. And don't worry about what that might mean in the future either, because we don't have any control over that. So think about the thing that you can have control of now, and that's being in the here and now. And that will stop you engaging in criticism about others, about the work environment, and self-criticising as well, because you're not doing things in the way you used to do them or the way you should think they should have been done. But actually just focus on what the changes are meaning right now. So take some time in this current environment not to compare things to how they were previously and that they're not going to be the same again. Just focus on what you can control in the here and now. So that mindfulness part about being in the here and now. And the second part is about relaxing. If we're feeling that tension start to rise, we can feel it in our shoulders. They start to rise and we need to lower them and, kind of take the tension out. We can feel those headaches starting to happen. We can feel the backache starting to happen. They can all be signals that we're starting to build up some stress in our body. So take some time when you're at work to do some progressive muscle relaxation and just relax all of those muscles that are associated with your anxiety. And when you feel that tension happen, take some time to relax and take some deep breaths. Because as I say, if you let that stress build up, it will just get worse and worse, and it could lead to anxiety for you. So think about how you can relax and introduce relaxation and mindfulness into your working day so that you can reduce that stress that you're feeling. Think about whether your stress is being self-imposed or whether it's coming from other people. Now, as we've said before, you can only control and react to what you do. So you can't control what others do. So think about how you're reacting to what others do, because you don't have any control of that. So think about that. But also think about how you're self-imposing some of this stress on yourself. because most of us go through a work day, push to get things done, you know. I think that we quite often feel, you know, if I cram in all of my work, I work solidly 8 to 10 hours, don't take my breaks so I can get all my work done, we'll get more done in the day. But actually, the opposite is true. It's shown that productivity goes down when we push ourselves too hard, because our stress levels go up and we have very little energy left over. And when we go home at night to our family, we haven't got any energy to spend with our family. So actually, during the workday, that relaxation and mindfulness thing that I was talking about, you know, schedule breaks throughout the day to go for a walk, have a stretch at your desk, do some breathing exercises, and this will all help to bring your stress levels down. Try what's called I can never pronounce it, the Pomodoro Technique. Pomodoro Technique. Apparently it's Italian for tomato. This is a time management method, and it was developed by an Italian chap, and I can't pronounce his name either, Francesco Cirello, something like that. Anyway, he introduced this back in the 80s when he was at university. And what he did was he took the kitchen timer, which was shaped like a tomato, that's why it's called the Pomodoro effect. And he said that if you work in intervals of 25 minutes in length, then actually that's better for you to help reduce your stress levels. So you work in periods of 25 to 30 minutes, and then you have a short break of about 10 minutes or so. And each interval is known as the Pomodoro. And that keeps your stress levels down, doing small bursts of work followed by a rest period that keeps you more alert and less likely to fatigue. And Facebook is now starting to tell me, oops, who's coming on, but now I can't find you. No, I'm just putting my fingers in the way, aren't I? Anyway, I've seen a few people come on. I think Denise, Linny, Tammy, Heidi, Alex, I think you're all watching. So thank you very much for coming on and watching. It's really not showing me who's there. So I'm kind of feeling like I'm talking to myself today. So it was lovely to see some names come up and know that I'm not here on my own. I'm wondering how work is affecting you guys, and whether you're feeling the stresses and strains at work with all of these changes that are happening. So we're looking at those ways to reduce those stress levels. So learn to stop self-imposing your stress. And actually, you know, it can be more difficult to reach out to others perhaps at the moment, because that work environment has changed. You're not sure whether the person that usually does that job is furloughed or working or not. So you need to reach out to those that are around you and make sure that you're not taking on board too much. And kind of shift your focus onto looking at what you can control and what workload you can be doing, and don't worry so much about everyone else's workload. At the moment, we can't think about those things. Just need to focus on what's going on for you. So think about whether you are putting some self-imposed stress on you, and if you are, think about ways that you can share that load. And maybe it means that you need to just think about the way that you're working and not push so hard, but actually work in kind of smaller spurts of activity that are better for you. And as always, I always say on these that, you know, if you're having trouble, then talk to someone. And, you know, it's just as important to talk at work as it is at home. In fact, probably more so, because we spend so much time at work. And with all of these new changes that are happening, and all of the new changes that are not only happening at work, but are happening in your home life too. You know, we're going through an awful lot of change at the moment, and our stress levels and our anxiety are going to be much higher because of all of this change happening and the changes continuing to happen. So, you know, do talk to people. So, you know, if you're struggling at work, talk to your colleagues at work, talk about sharing the workload, talk about the environment and how that's feeling for you, talk about what's going on and how the changes are affecting what's going on. You know, you may feel that you're the only one feeling these stresses, but as you start to talk to other people, you realise that other people are struggling with similar kind of changes to you, and just knowing that can quite often relieve that stress that you're feeling. And talk to your manager if you can. Sometimes I know that people struggle talking to their managers, but it's really important that your manager knows what's going on for you. And I used to work with Dorset Mind, and we did quite a lot of training with managers around how to manage stress for their employees. And quite often managers felt that they were being kept in the dark about how their employees were feeling. So please do reach out to your manager and have a talk with them. I know that sometimes we can feel that we might kind of make things difficult if we talk to our managers, but they need to know, they need to kind of sort out the workload and what's going on. So reach out to them and let them know what's happening. And if you really don't feel that you can talk to someone at work, then talk to someone at home, talk to a family member, or if you really feel there's no one to talk to, get in contact with a counsellor and talk to a counsellor. I think that people always think that counselling is something that you have to go to on a long-term basis, and you have to have lots of sessions or at least 6 sessions or something to try and sort out what's going on. But actually, just coming to one session of counselling could help you relieve that stress that's going on. Just an opportunity to offload everything that's happening without thinking about you're burdening someone else or you're saying things that you shouldn't and you're talking out of line. It's a great opportunity in the counselling room to have a safe space and be able to offload all of that stuff that's going on for you. And I'm more than happy to book in one session for someone, let them do all their offloading and off they go. I actually have quite a few clients that just come to me every so often when the stress or the anxiety in life has built up for them. Life has got a little bit too much. They come for a session, they offload a lot of stuff, they feel much better, and it allows them to go out into the world again and kind of be in a more calm place to start dealing with life again. So, you know, that talking to someone really makes a difference when we're building up that stress. So I'm hoping that you kind of think about how your work environment is at the moment, what those changes are that have happened, how it affects you and how it affects others in the workplace, and actually think about, you know, how you're coping with that change in the workplace, and actually think about communicating with others to make sure it doesn't get on top of you. Think about whether it's leading you to have this negative thought about your work and yourself and colleagues and things, and actually think about how you can change those thoughts to be more helpful to you, and whether you're reacting to things rather than acting on things. Think about introducing relaxation into your day and actually working in the here and now and not worrying about everything that used to be and all the things that could be, because that's not the way that the work situation is now. So you have to think about how you can adapt to work in the situation that you have in the present moment. And, you know, is your stress self-imposed? So think about what are the things that you are doing at work that you could actually do less of or more of, or you could be able to share things with people so that actually you're not creating the stress for yourself and you're actually sharing things so that your stress level can go down. And as always, you know, if you're ever feeling that problems are getting too much for you, then do go and talk to someone about it. That's really important. So I hope those little tips have been helpful to you. As always, I will put this up. Oh, I've got a fly flying around here. I'll put that up onto my website. No, I won't. I'll put it up onto my Facebook. The fly put me off. I'll put it up onto my Facebook page, See Clear Counselling. I will write a blog about this, and I'll put that onto my website, www.seeclearcounselling.co.uk. And as I say, if anxiety is something that is particularly troubling you, then, you know, please do ask to join my Facebook support group, Beating Anxiety. Something flicked up in front of me that I've never seen before on the live feed, and I can't really read it and I can't see what it's saying. So yeah, Facebook's played around with me today. I don't really know what's going on. I can't see anyone. I can't see the little posts that people are putting up and their thumbs up and things. So I've really felt like I'm here on my own. So if you've been watching, thank you. And if you're watching on the replay, then please do let me know you're watching on the replay. And I hope that there's been some useful stuff for you. As I always say, even if you take one tip out of what I've talked about, then that's been useful to you. So have a good day, everyone, and I will see you next Tuesday, usual time, usual place. Bye for now.